Good morning, Floss Tube. It's Julie with Reflections Framing and Stitching. Today is Friday, the 8th of May, and I am back for Chart of the Day video number 26, I think. How are you today? It's Friday. Tomorrow's Saturday, which makes it the weekend. Dan was celebrating. He works from home on Fridays, but he was celebrating because tomorrow's the weekend and he doesn't have to work. So he was happy. I hope you're all well. I want to say a quick thank you once again for all the love and support that I am receiving from the Floss Tube community. Everyone still seems to be enjoying the videos, so I will continue to make them. And today's weather report is it's sunny but cold. I almost dug my mittens back out of my mitten box, but I said, no, it's May. I'm not doing it. So my fingers are still cold, but it'll warm up. The sun's shining, so it gets really warm in here when the sun is shining. So it'll be a few minutes, but then I'll be all warmed up and good to go. Yesterday, question of the day that I almost forgot was, what was it? Oh, breakfast. Oh, can you tell it's Friday? My brain is fried. Breakfast. Do you eat breakfast? Do you like breakfast? What do you like for breakfast? Most people eat breakfast. Some don't like it. A lot of you just eat like a quick breakfast, cereal or toast, or not a big like scrambled eggs and bacon, and that seems to be reserved for more special occasions. But it did seem like everyone enjoys breakfast, and everyone seems to enjoy it at almost any time of the day. So that's good. Breakfast is the most important meal, so we should all be eating it. It's what keeps our brains going for the day. I had a question from a gal that asked if I was doing keto because I mentioned the pasta hangover I had. I'm not technically. I mean, I suppose you could say I'm doing keto, but I'm not following, there's some sort of guidelines that you have to have X amount of protein and X amount of fat, and I'm not doing that. I quit eating sugar a little over a year ago because my arthritis pain was getting so bad and I was living on leave, and that's really not good for your body. And I had read an article online that said there was a direct correlation between sugar and arthritis. And so I thought, well, I think that's a lot of bullpucky, but thought can't hurt to try it. When it works, I'll just go back to eating how I normally eat, and I'll have at least had the satisfaction of saying, yeah, I gave it a whirl. Well, I'm here to say that it made a huge difference. I don't take painkillers anymore, except for when I overindulge in sugar, which pasta is carbs and it converts to sugar in the body. So I can always tell when I have overindulged. My joints hurt, my fingers swell, my Achilles tendon starts to bother me. So I did no carbs yesterday. I'm feeling much better today. Still a little swollen. Tummy's still a little but for the most part I'm feeling much better today. So if you're having some arthritis problems, I know my friend Nancy just started. She said she needs a hip replacement, but now's not really the time she wants to be doing it. So she decided to try eating the way I eat, and she said it did make a big difference in how she felt. So it's not just me. And to answer your question about I think it was the spaghetti squash. I think you were no, I don't. Squash falls under the heading of vegetables, and I don't eat those ever. So Sorry, I haven't tried them. My sister did, and she didn't care for them either. Something to do with the texture, I think. And since we're both kind of have issues with texture, someday I might work up the nerve to try it. But the last time I worked up the nerve to try something, it didn't go well. Right, Kathleen? So that's my answer to that question. Not really doing keto, but sort of doing keto. The side benefit to giving up the pasta and the sugar and stuff is I did lose weight, and I'm sure that had something to do with it, but not everything, because, like I said, I can tell almost, right away that my body doesn't like it. So, there's that. I had a funny little story about Remy. I mentioned Dan teaches on Thursdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and he's teaching it from home right now because the community college is closed. So I get home. He starts teaching at about 5:30. I usually get home sometime around I try to get home early on those nights when he's teaching so that the dogs aren't barking while he's trying to teach. So I got home about 5:30 yesterday. I left some things undone and just said, no, I got to go home for the dogs. So I got home about 5:30, and I never know whether he's fed the dogs or not fed the dogs. Their bowls were empty. And I thought, well, he usually takes a break about 7. They can wait until 7 to eat. So I started making my dinner, which consisted of some ham slices and some cheese. And I turned around, and here is Remy. She's laying on the floor, and her face is laying in her bowl, her food bowl. And she's looking at me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to guess Dan did not feed you. I wanted to get a picture so bad, but when I turned around to grab my phone to take a picture, then she got up. So I think she thought I was going to head towards the food, and so I didn't get a picture, but it was funny. Oh, it was funny to just see her laying there with her head in her. She has a little white Corral bowl, is what her food goes in, and there's her head laying in that bowl. It was hilarious. Wish you could have been there. All right, chart of the day today. I would say I've already wasted 8 minutes. Chart of the day today. You know how one thing just kind of leads to another thing? I was pulling some stuff for a customer yesterday, and I happened to run across this chart, and I'm like, oh, I kind of forgot I had it. And I only have the one. It was never really a very good seller, but I always meant to pull the flosses and see what it looked like in person. It reminds me very much of a Blackbird design. And colors never look the same, so I always wanted to pull the colors and see what they actually truly look like, and I just have never done it. So I'm digging through, and I run across it, and I'm like, ooh, well, let's do that. Maybe we'll do that for the chart of the day. And if there's several factors that go into my choosing the chart of the day. Do I have all the floss? It's really hard to do a chart of the day if you're missing half the floss. And if it calls for gentle arts, then most likely I am missing half the floss. Fabric, if I can't find a fabric that I think looks good, that I know I have at least enough for one cut. So I pulled it off, and I went to look for the floss because it did call for gentle arts. And I had all of the called, well, except for the endive. I don't know. If you can find out endive, good luck. But one endive is pretty easy. It's green, so you can use any number of greens. I kind of tend to like Weeping Willow in place of, it's from Classic Colorworks, in place of the endive. So I had all the flosses, and it just called for, what did Beth call for? Winter Brew, which is just beige. 28 count, which she's a big girl at 247 by 191. So I probably wouldn't do, I know Beth loves 28 count, but I'd probably do it on something bigger, smaller, as the case may be. I would probably do it so it would end up smaller. So a larger number, like a 40 count, would probably be what I would do. For today's purposes, I chose some 32 count fabrics, which would make it close to the size that Beth intended it to be. There is a DMC conversion available on request, but it's not in this chart, so I couldn't pull it. She uses a mix of Classic Colorworks, Gentle Arts, and Weeks Dye Works. A couple of the Gentle Arts colors, like Country Redwood, calls for 2 skeins, and the Endive calls for 4 skeins. So just so you know, if you end up liking this chart and want to kit it up, it's going to take some floss. Doesn't say, does it say anywhere? A lot of times she does just 1 strand on 28, which, craziness. The coverage is not very good, but she kind of likes that soft. I don't see where it says 1 strand, so I'm assuming it's going to be 2 strands, especially since you need 4 skeins. Yeah. So, without further ado, today's chart of the day is from Heartstring Samplery. It is called Victoria's Garden. It is she calls it a faithfully reproduced antique sampler. She won it at an auction while she was at church. She tells the story of it in here. She's always really good about writing the story about behind the design, which I think is kind of cool. That's the chart. Doesn't it remind you of a kind of like a blackbird design? I think so. The colors are really pretty. They're again, they remind me of blackbirds. So there's a number of them, but very pretty. I don't have Winter Brew at the moment. I have 32 count French Roast, which I think would be good. So I think pretty much any kind of a lighter, not real light beige, but not dark beige would be good. This is one you would need to make sure shows up on whatever color you choose. So that's 32 count French Roast. I think the colors are really pretty on, this is Alabaster from R&R. It has a slight pinky tone to it, and I think it would be really pretty on that. Like, really pretty. Not just kind of pretty, but really pretty. And I don't know that you're going to be able to see the pinky. Maybe right up here you can kind of tell it's a little pink. But I think that would be pretty. Picture this plus fresco, which I've talked about being one of my favorite colors. It has some green and some pink running through it. It's just a very soft beige with the green and the pink. And I think that would be very pretty. Spread those out a little more. Maybe I'll see if I can find a spot that really has the pink showing too. But I think that would work. Let me open this up a little. I actually have a big piece of this one. Well, here you can see kind of the green, but it's got some very nice modeling. And there is some pink in it, not a ton. There's a little bit of pink right in here. It's a beautiful piece, and stitches up pretty in a lot of different things. And then I was thinking, okay, what if you don't want to do a beige? And I pulled out vintage cedar plank from Lakeside Linens. And I think the colors are really pretty on here. There is one that I'm somewhat hesitant about. It may not show up. It's this one right here. It may. I'd have to stitch a few stitches and see if it shows up using 2 strands. If this was on a 40 count, probably it would not. And probably what I would do in that case is I would darken it to, well, I'd like to darken it to like Tin Bucket from Gentle Arts, but that's hard to come by. So I would probably darken it up to something. It's for some urns, and let's see if I can show you. It's for like the bottom of this urn. It's the outside of these 2 birds here. And I think it's these urns. Let's see, right up here. So I think Tin Bucket would probably show up nicely on there. It would go with the rest of the colors, I'm pretty sure. So, but I think it would be really pretty on this darker fabric. Now, one other thing I wanted to talk about, again, Gentle Arts, hard to find. I'm running out of a lot of colors. And when they get up and running again, it's going to take a while to get the wall filled back up. I mean, I was out of 42 colors before COVID, and now I'm out of even more. So it's going to be a very expensive thing to get them back on the wall if and when they ever get up and running again. So a couple of suggestions. One of the colors you need 2 of is Country Redwood, which is one of my favorite reds. Substitutes, you could use Manor Red. It's a little bit darker, but still real close. Cayenne from Weeks Dye Works is a little bit brighter, but still close. So those would be a couple of options you could use if you couldn't find the Country Redwood. Old Brick is also called for, and about the only one I found that really kind of works would be Tennessee Red Clay. It's a little more pink. The Old Brick has a little more orange to it, but they're close enough that I don't think you'd notice a difference. Wood Rose, I kind of forgot to look for a sub for Wood Rose. Sorry. And that one's a lot of times is out. And then it calls for Pomegranate, which is an orangier red. Closest I could come would be Cherry Cobbler, which is going to be darker in color, Cherry Cobbler, or Red Rocks, which is also going to be a little darker. But that's the closest I could come for that. Wood Rose, gosh, hold on, and I'm going to go see if I can find something. I'll be right back. Okay, closest I could find would be Glazed Carrots from Classic Colorworks. It's not quite right, not enough pink in it, but it would be similar, and you could pull that off. So listen up, dyers of floss. Someone needs to come up with a color that's equivalent to Wood Rose. There's a couple other colors in here, but that are Gentle Arts. Caramel Corn. Caramel Corn came out really, really yellow this time. It's not normally that, so I didn't want to do a conversion for that because it's usually not that yellow. Maybe it will be from now on, but generally speaking, it's not usually that color. So there's the chart of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a beautiful piece. I only have the one chart, so but I'm sure I can order it if anyone is interested. And that leads me to the question of the day, which I have forgotten. Oh, my brain today. I'm having some allergy issues today. I don't know what it is. This ear is popping and crackling and feels full of fluid. My eyes feel a little gritty today. All of which is not helping me remember my question of the day. So, what was it? You tell me. What was my question of the day? It was a good one, too. I'm going to stop this while I think about it. Okay, question of the day. I was talking to Amy the other day, and she was talking about reading The Lord of the Rings, which I have never read. I tried reading The Hobbit 3 or 4 times, and no. And she trying to convince me that the Lord of the Rings trilogy is different from The Hobbit. And she said, well, that's the problem most people have, is they tried reading The Hobbit and it's no good. Oh, okay, sure. But usually this time of the year is when Amy starts reading the Harry Potter series again, because every year she reads them in the order in order, and she times it so that she finishes the last book on Harry Potter's birthday, which I think is in July. So I was like, well, if you're reading The Lord of the Rings, what about Harry? And oh yeah, I'm gonna read Harry. Yep. So I just wondered how many of you have read Harry Potter. I'm gonna guess a large portion of you have. I know I started reading it to the kids right as soon as it came out. I know there are some people that do not like the Harry Potter books. Everyone's entitled to their own likes and dislikes, so I'm not going to comment on that. I love them. I enjoyed reading them to the kids, and I still read them once in a while. I go back and reread them. I have ones I like better than others, but I think they're a wonderful series, and I'm just curious how many of you have read them. So with that, this is 22 minutes long. Gonna call it a day, I think, for this video. Don't have real big plans for the weekend. I'll be here tomorrow. I probably need to work on some retreat stuff, because even though my gut is kind of telling me that retreat in the fall may not happen, I'm going to be ready just in case it does. I'm praying that it does. But my gut is saying no. So I'm hoping my gut's wrong. So I'll probably work on some retreat projects. I'm hoping to stitch a little bit. I haven't stitched the last 2 nights now. I got home last night and I was just tired. I didn't really feel like it, so I put on it's an HGTV show, Nate and the other guy, and I watched 4 or 5 episodes of that, and then I went to bed. So that's my weekend. I hope you have a wonderful one. Let's get some stitching done, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Take care. Bye-bye.